When I was a kid, I guess you could say I didn't have the best childhood. There was no single thing that made it especially horrible. Well, at least I don't think so. I was just unfortunate enough to have a number of things happening at the same time. There's one story I tell people that always seems to put it in perspective for them. Anyone who knows me now knows that I'm overweight. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've lived with it for long enough at this point. But I've always been fat, even as a kid. Back then, I had this problem with eating candy and sweets. It was more like an addiction, or maybe a coping mechanism. I ate candy constantly. I have no idea how much I must have eaten, but it was surely an ungodly amount. There was hardly a time when I wasn't sneaking in a few pieces of chocolate around the corner, or in the restrooms at school, or even in the locker room showers. And of course, it made me fat. But it also destroyed my teeth. Not only was I unable to stop myself from eating candy, but I could never seem to bring myself to brush my teeth, or floss, or even rinse with mouthwash. By the time I was 13 and had all of my adult teeth, most of them were already so decayed and rotting that I couldn't even chew regular food with them. But when I tried to ask my mom to take me to the dentist, that's the part of the story where you might start to see why I tended to do such self-destructive things. Mom, can you please take me to the dentist? My teeth really hurt.
I can't afford a dentist. Don't be so needy. Take care of your teeth.
That was about as much love and care as I ever got from my mother. Even still, I can't say she deserves all the blame. Lord knows she tried. My dad left when I was little and she'd been stuck supporting me ever since, working 2 minimum wage jobs just to keep us afloat. The constant stress and hardship over the years took a toll on her. I only vaguely remember days from when I was very young when she was kind and sweet and motherly, but now she was cold and bitter and spiteful. But one thing I had always looked up to about my mother was her teeth. Whereas I had nasty black and rotten stumps sticking out of my bleeding gums, my mom had perfectly straight white teeth. I always wish I could have perfect teeth like her. But I was, of course, too far gone into my depression to take any sort of charge over my oral hygiene. So for a while I just lived with it. But I swear, out of everything I can remember ever happening to me, the worst of them all were all those weeks I spent in the excruciating pain of each and every one of my teeth being hollowed out to the root. If you've never felt it before, I don't think there's any proper way to describe it. I would lie awake at night, quietly sobbing, trying not to move a muscle or I'd be stabbed with pain throughout my whole face. The only time I'd ever get sleep was when the pain was so bad, I simply passed out from it in some kind of shock reaction. But I think I was even crying in my sleep, because every so often, my mother would burst into my room and start hitting me, yelling things like,
What do you think you're doing howling like a dog in the middle of the night? Don't you know I've got work in the morning? Maybe I should just go in tired and get fired so I'd have an excuse to throw your sorry behind out on the street.
Mom, please, just take me to the dentist. It hurts so bad.
If you didn't want to be in pain, you should have thought about that before you ate all that candy, fatty. You know I can't afford to take you to some crook dentist. Just deal with it, you little baby.
I sure tried to deal with it, but I couldn't. After enough time and enough pain, I started to go a little crazy.
And I'm gonna eat you! I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Imagination, life is your creation. Come on, Barbie, let's go. I'm a blonde bimbo girl in a fantasy world. Dress me up, make it tight, I'm your darling.
You're my doll, rock and roll. Feel the glamour and pink. Kiss me here, touch me there, hanky panky.
You can touch, you can play. If you say I'm always yours,
My name is Candace, and I'm a single mother with 2 kids. My daughter Sarah is 7 and my son Tommy is 5. They were both due for their 6-month cleaning, and our regular dentist recently retired, leaving me to find a new one. Their previous dentist was very kind and always took really great care of my kids, so I was hoping to find one just like him. However, it was more difficult than expected. After months and months of strenuous searching, one dentist, Dr. Teal, had caught my attention. With great customer reviews and a 4.8-star rating, I set up an appointment, not knowing that this would be the biggest mistake of my life. Upon arrival, Sarah got her teeth cleaned efficiently, leaving Tommy to go next. Dr. Teal walked into the waiting room once he finished with Tommy's cleaning, and it was safe to say that it didn't look like he had good news. It's not looking good, Candace. Tommy here has a couple of cavities.
I was afraid of that. I've been letting him brush his own teeth.
It's all right. Don't beat yourself up. They all have to learn this somehow, and these things happen. Listen, I just had a cancellation if you'd like to get those taken care of right now.
Really? That would be great. I wasn't sure when I could get out of work for an appointment anytime soon.
Great.
Are you gonna be alright while I take your sister back to school?
Mom, I'm 5. I'm not a baby.
Okay, I'll be back as soon as I can.
I checked Sarah out and drove to a McDonald's drive-thru to purchase her a Happy Meal. I figured since Tommy was a big boy now, I could take a little extra time. I dropped Sarah off at school and drove back to the dentist. To my surprise, Dr. Teal had already completed all of Tommy's fillings. However, when Tommy tried to stand on his feet, he seemed very woozy and unstable. I know a thing or two about funny gas and how my kids responded to it, but this time, Tommy seemed more agitated than usual.
Tommy, are you okay, buddy?
I am fine, Mom. You gave me a shot in the gums and I didn't feel a thing.
I told Dr. Teal that my son was not acting like himself, and he informed me that they had updated the funny gas formula. With this information, he proceeded to inform me that within 5 hours, Tommy would be back to his usual self. I'll be honest, I felt a bit uneasy with this response, but I decided to give it time to wear off. I kept Tommy home the rest of the day, and he passed out after eating some lunch. I occasionally checked in on him, and he seemed to be okay, until I went to wake him up to retrieve Sarah from school. I entered his room and gently shook him, calling out his name.
Tommy, wake up. It's time to go get Sarah.
Piss off! Let me sleep!
Thomas Alexander, you do not talk to me that way. I am your mother.
I'll talk to you however I want. Now while you're out, get me a soda and some candy.
I was shocked at Tommy's vocabulary. I grabbed his arm and dragged him to the car while the little squirt kicked and screamed at me. He shouted profanities at me the entire drive to school, and when Sarah got in the car, she had to sit in the front seat so that Tommy wouldn't hit her. He screamed and cursed at us the entire way home. I locked Tommy in his room and immediately called the dentist's office. The phone rang numerous times before reaching their already full voicemail box. I decided that I would give him until tomorrow for the funny gas to wear off. That night, I had Tommy sleep in my room so that I could keep a close eye on him. He slept throughout the night, and the next day he seemed like he was back to his normal self, so I got him ready for school. The day went great, and I nearly forgot about his hellish behavior from the day before. He even apologized for talking the way he did, and of course, I couldn't stay mad at him. However, the next day, he seemed to get worse. He was more demanding and being extremely rude. At some point, I heard a scream in the kitchen from the laundry room and rushed out to see that Tommy was chasing Sarah with a knife.
Tommy! What do you think you're doing? Mommy, Tommy grabbed a knife and said he wanted to chop the top of my head off.
Get out of my way!
I managed to snatch the knife from him, and he ran upstairs to his room, cackling demonically. I comforted Sarah until she felt safe again. I couldn't avoid the sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach that something was very, very wrong with Tommy. He was usually such a sweet kid, and he adored his big sister. Even if Sarah made him mad, he would have never grabbed a knife. I tried calling the dentist again, but this time the number was out of service. I didn't know what to do, and I was scared. That night, after I put Sarah to bed, I went to get Tommy from his room. I opened the door and he held up a picture he drew of Sarah, with half of her head cut off. Tommy's picture brought shivers down my spine as I stuttered.
Tommy, let's go get Sarah and go for a drive.
Are we getting ice cream?
We sure are, buddy.
We quickly drove to the emergency room and explained the situation to the doctor. Tommy was taken for an MRI, and unfortunately, he came back with some horrible news. Candace, I need to speak with you about Tommy.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, he's not dead or dying, but your son is suffering from some severe brain damage.
Brain damage?
Well, we ran some tests and found that a chemical he had breathed in had crossed some wires in his brain. Has your son been around any chemicals lately?
No, he was at the dentist the other day. He mentioned that he had come out with a new formula in their funny gas.
Which dentist did you go to? I told him about Dr. Teal, and the doctor informed me that Tommy was one of a few patients that had suffered some brain damage after the funny gas they were given. He also told me how the dentist's office had been shut down, and the guy was on the run. My stomach dropped when the doctor told me that they would have to give Tommy a lobotomy. I thought they didn't do those anymore, but apparently in Tommy's case, it was the only option. I eventually agreed to have the lobotomy performed on him. They kept him in the hospital for a couple of days for observation. My sweet Tommy recovered just fine and seemed to be back to himself. A couple of months went by and we thought we were in the clearing. One night after falling asleep, I woke up to something dripping on my face. I looked up to find Tommy holding a cleaver and what looked like a rat in his hand, holding them over my head.
I made Sarah different. Come see her, Mommy.
I rushed out of bed to Sarah's room and turned on the light. She was laying in her bed, with the top of her head chopped off. Blood and brains saturated her pillows. She looked as though she was smiling, just like she was in his hand-drawn picture.